What's happening now is that you have what I think will be the second layer of medicine, which is going to be a cash-based system with the med spa, or basically kind of the med spa becoming essentially the primary care of that range. Hello, welcome back, medical entrepreneurs. So glad to have you here. In today's podcast, we're going to talk about the business of aesthetics. We've received a lot of messages and communications from people that are saying like, "Well, man, I really like aesthetics. Is it still good to go in there? Is aesthetics still a good market?" I mean, as you can see, aesthetics continues to grow year after year, consistently over and over. Is it right for me? How can I know, etc. So let's just talk real briefly, let's talk, very plainly about what does it really mean to be in the aesthetics business, or what some people may call med spa business. And what I will tell you is, after, owning 2 medical spas myself, coaching 211 other med spas, building a software that allows them to run their businesses, do marketing, etc., that also helps them do all that. I've become very, very deep in the aesthetics industry and the problems of any kind of med spa business owner, that kind of thing. And here's what I'll say is, I think the aesthetics marketplace is still prime for growth. The other thing that I'm seeing is that a lot of people misunderstand what aesthetics is and what it's becoming. So, everything over time grows and changes, right? Seasons change, things wax and wane, etc. What I'm seeing in the aesthetic space is that the traditional med spa that only used to do Botox, fillers, facials, that kind of thing, is starting to give way to a new form of med spa that not only does Botox, fillers, that kind of thing, but it also does hormone replacement. It also does weight loss. It also does what would normally be considered like functional medicine, alternative therapies, thyroid treatments, nutraceuticals. Basically, you're starting to see that med spas are becoming the new, if you can imagine, the new primary care of medicine. So what's happening is medicine is kind of breaking off into 2 parts. This is very classic for many other countries besides the United States, but for the United States, this is the first time it's really happened here. And so what you have is an insurance-based system that, just to be frank, is corrupt as hell and is probably the worst thing for the patient, the worst thing for the provider, and unless you're a hospital corporation, really not a good place to be. That model is falling apart, and it's getting to a point where now I have met many people who actually do not. They may have insurance, but they do not use insurance regularly. Some of it's due to the fact that the insurance rates are sky high. I've seen patients before that they have a deductible of $12,000, and then after the $12,000, then their insurance covers 70%. So it's almost to the point of where it used to be that kind of policy would have been catastrophic, policy in the past. And I remember in I think the early 90s, I bought a policy like that because I was, a young student and didn't really need anything besides catastrophic insurance. And it was maybe $200 a year. That same policy right now, you try to get that policy for your family, it's going to be $2,000 a month. It's that bad. So it just doesn't really, the actual mainstream medical system is literally falling apart. It's not really applicable except for those people that are some of the sickest people. And most of those people are on government insurance of some kind, whether it's Medicaid, whether it's Medicare. And so the insurers themselves, the private insurers, have basically made all these plans that are basically replacement plans, where they're trying to get some of that profit that would normally be basically get profit from the government, essentially, for administering these plans. And that usually works very, very poorly for the patient. And so you can see, I've seen before, people that have had straight Medicare have more choices than somebody who gets a United plan, for example. United replacement plan is actually worse than having straight Medicare in many cases. So not to go too far down that rabbit hole, but basically with the failure of the mainstream medical system, what's happening is that another system is being built. And it started out with med spas. Now it's it's functional medicine, et cetera, but med spas have the greatest potential to become something so much more than they really are. So besides just saying, hey, we do Botox, filler, that kind of thing, med spas are now doing hormone replacement. They're now doing wellness checks. They're now doing sexual rejuvenation. There's so many other procedures that are added on. They're doing the regenerative procedures in med spas are increasing exponentially. Everything from décolletage treatments, right, to basically regenerative treatments for the face, and some med spas are even getting into regenerative orthopedics, thanks to the American Arthritis Foundation. So it's just a huge change. And what's happening now is that you have what I think will be the second layer of medicine, which is going to be a cash-based system with the med spa, or basically kind of the med spa becoming essentially the primary care of that range, where basically people have a relationship with a med spa. They know that's where they might go to get their hormones replaced. They know they might go to have these other issues treated. And basically when they actually have an issue that's not a traditional sick care where they need antibiotics or something like that, they're coming to the med spa for the guidance and the expertise, rather than going to mainstream medicine, because mainstream medicine essentially is now algorithm based and kind of cookie cutter medicine. And if you've ever had any family members who have gone through the mainstream medical system recently, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The quality of care is very low, and I don't blame them, because the pay for the mainstream medical system is extraordinarily low. I mean, let's just be straightforward. A level 1 visit for Medicare pays $20. Anyone who works as a physician, a nurse practitioner, a RN, all of that, you are making less money than a plumber every day you work in the mainstream medical system. Even the very best orthopedic surgeon in the world, the very best neurosurgeon, at the end of the day, when you look at the hours they put in, you will make less money than a plumber. You could have just become a master certified plumber and do better than you would as a physician, a neurosurgeon, whatever. And the thing is that this is only getting worse, because not only is Medicare essentially bankrupt, like they run out of money in 2025, so they don't have any more money. They continually cut, they continually do audits and clawbacks and all these games that really affect private practice. And it's to the point where it's basically hindering the ability for practices to even give medical care now. I mean, just the amount of stuff that you have to go through to get things approved, it just doesn't make sense anymore. We stopped carrying insurance a long time ago. Most everybody I know that's a physician that owns their own practice, they're either rapidly decreasing the amount of insurance they take, or they're not taking any at all. And there's a good reason for it, because you can do way better with a far smaller group of patients, which is much easier to deal with, much happier in general, not as dangerous in terms of liability, and actually enjoy having a better patient physician relationship with them, or provider relationship, whatever. With them, and basically have a better quality of life for yourself and your family, but also give better care to a patient. And the patients are happy to pay for it, because they're going to pay huge sums of money anyway for an insurance-based system that's still going to rip them off and treat them poorly. They might as well just pay, a premium and get the really good insurance and get really good treatment from people, and basically, get their care done as they see fit. Basically, what I see for the future of medical spas is that, if you're already in the aesthetics practice, there's so many ways to get started. It's amazing. But, I've seen people get started with literally nothing. Like, all they had was a website, and they were able to basically build an audience through social media, talking about aesthetic procedures, talking about some of these new things that people are doing, talking about using, semaglutide for weight loss, whatever it is, right? Talking about all these different things out there, and basically educating the public and building a base of patients before they even rent an office to treat them. And so the entire model of what we thought was possible with medical spas is being essentially turned on its head, because what we're seeing now is that, rather than, like in the old days, you'd have to go, find a building, you basically put down a 3 to 5 year lease, put down a big chunk of money to get it rebuilt and get ready, spending all your savings to do all this stuff, get a sign, hire staff, get phone systems installed, like all this stuff, right? And all these are, huge expenses that add up very quickly. Nowadays, you don't have to do any of that. You can use a software like ClickPractice that basically comes with a website that you can customize very easily, have a website up and running, get your social media up, get your Google profile up, and basically start to either see people virtually, or start to at least have some kind of contact with people, and basically start to build a customer base before you even have an office. We've had several members of our community that have done this successfully, where they basically started essentially through a website, through ClickPractice, right? built a following, started selling skincare to the following. Then once they got enough people, went to a chiropractor and said, hey, can I rent a room in your office because it's medically zoned? And then basically started their own, med spa, their own practice essentially in that room of the chiropractor, and basically working there on their own and having their own business where they had no, essentially all the autonomy. They basically get to make all the money they want to. There's no hospital administrator or anyone, above you saying, hey, you only get this much, or the hospital needs this much to survive, that kind of thing. You're actually getting paid for all the stuff you do and enjoying their practice because they get to define it. And all this stuff can be done in a reverse system now versus, in the past, it would have required, hundreds of thousands of dollars. So now is a great time for looking into aesthetics practice. The aesthetics business is growing like crazy. And with the addition of these new services onto the traditional aesthetic businesses, it is just giving it so much more reach and so much more power and bandwidth. And what happens is there's a lot of cross-selling that goes on. And so cross-selling is a fancy word, but it basically means when somebody comes in to buy product A, they end up also buying product B or C or D or all of them. And so what happens is that many times people may come into a med spa for an aesthetic treatment such as Botox, but then they find out like, oh, hey, by the way, you guys also treat headaches. I want to pay cash for headache treatments. Or they might find out like, hey, you guys also do hormone replacement. I want to do hormone replacement. But the same thing's happening the other way around. You have people that are coming in for weight loss who are like, oh, I want to lose weight loss. I'm interested in, one of these new medications, let's just semaglutide or something like this. But now I'm interested, like, okay, I'm also interested in Botox. I'm also interested in filler. I'm also interested in, PRP microneedling. I'm also interested in skincare. So a lot of cross-selling is happening, which really makes the businesses much stronger, more durable, because they literally have multiple groups of clients that come for different reasons, but they're also often buying alternative products and solutions, which makes their average customer value really, really high, which is great for your business. So if you are considering looking into aesthetics, I would say definitely look into aesthetics. There's ways that you can start with literally nothing like I described. Just using a website and using a software to build your first, customer list, then renting an office, somewhere where it's, fairly cheap, keep your overhead low and build it from there. We've had several people do that, end up expanding to having multiple injectors underneath them, building huge practices just because they were smart about how they did that. And they figured out, the best way to get started is not to spend a lot of money or invest all their savings into a building or this kind of things, but to spend their time focused on giving the market what the market wants. So that ends it for this podcast, guys. Thank you so much. As always, one vision, one purpose, freedom through prosperity.